For over a decade, Prince Andrew stood as the United Kingdom's so-called Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. His mission, as sold to the public, was one of diplomacy and economic partnership in the world's most dynamic markets. But behind the choreographed photo ops in Beijing's Forbidden City or Manila's presidential palace, a very different reality was unfolding. One of staggering personal entitlement, chronic diplomatic disrespect, and a deeply ingrained pattern of behaviour that left a trail of exhausted aides, furious diplomats, and drained national treasuries across Asia. This isn't just about luxury. It's about the systemic abuse of a privileged position. And for those in the room, it was a chilling preview of the scandals to come. Long before the RAF VIP aircraft was even scheduled, the disruption would begin. Host nations would receive a document, not a request for consideration, but a dossier of non-negotiable requirements, setting the tone for the entire visit. This was the blueprint of his entitlement. We're talking about demands for fleets of specific high-end luxury vehicles, not just for him, but for his entire bloated entourage. Entire floors of five-star hotels like the Shangri-La had to be cleared and reconfigured. Insiders report requirements for on-call chefs, available at any hour to cater to his erratic mealtimes. In the Philippines in 2012, this translated to a jaw-dropping shopping list for a mere 3-day tour, 20 rooms booked at the Makati Shangri-La, with Andrew taking the presidential suite. A convoy of 12 luxury cars, including a dedicated van just for luggage, and a police outrider escort comprising 40 motorbikes and officers. The estimated cost to the Filipino taxpayers soared over 10 million pesos. This wasn't hospitality, it was an extraction. And it was just the opening move. If the demands were the blueprint, the reality on the ground was a daily masterclass in mismanagement. Former aides and UK trade and investment staff describe a grinding, humiliating routine they termed the clockwork of resentment. The official schedule, painstakingly negotiated by diplomats for months, was treated as a mere suggestion. Events with important business leaders or cultural figures would be cancelled at the last minute if Andrew deemed them dull or unworthy. Security details, planned to the second, were thrown into chaos by his insistence on unscheduled stops at high-end shopping arcades in Bangkok or Hong Kong. But perhaps the most brazen example of his disregard came in China. During a 2008 visit, he reportedly insisted that his motorcade be larger and more prominent than the one arranged for a concurrently visiting US Secretary of State. This wasn't just a vanity play, it was a profound breach of diplomatic protocol that risked a major international incident. British embassy staff were left to offer frantic, shame-faced apologies to their American counterparts and Chinese hosts. The job had morphed, from facilitating trade to managing the volatile ego of one man. The financial cost was quantifiable. The diplomatic damage was deeper and more corrosive. For the host nations, often developing countries in Southeast Asia, the bill for hosting Andrew was a massive, unbudgeted strain. The unspoken question among their officials was a furious one. Why are we bankrolling this man's royal holiday? Meanwhile, the actual British diplomats stationed in these countries faced a nightmare. Their lifelong work of building strategic partnerships and cultural goodwill was undermined in days. They were forced into a perpetual, demeaning role of clean-up crew, smoothing ruffled feathers and offering oblique assurances that this did not represent the real Britain. A former Foreign Office insider bluntly called the process professional mopping up. The UK's brand, painstakingly built, was being tarnished not by competitors, but by its own representative. The mission had been utterly inverted. Beyond the logistics and the diplomacy, there was the atmosphere, the intangible, uneasy feeling that rarely made it into official cables, but permeated every staff memo and security debrief. Protection officers grew increasingly anxious about the impromptu, late-night outings in the nightlife districts of Bangkok or Manila, where secure protocols were nearly impossible to maintain. But more disturbing are the consistent, anonymised accounts from within the host delegations. Junior female staffers, often assigned to assist the visiting retinue, reported an uncomfortable climate. There were expectations of being constantly on hand, of attending to personal whims outside normal duties, and an overly familiar, pressuring demeanour from the prince himself. As one anonymous aide quoted in royal circles said, the environment was clear. The convenience and preferences of the principal were the only operational priority. The human cost of maintaining his comfort was deemed irrelevant. These whispers from the perimeter painted a picture of a man who saw everyone around him as service staff. Buckingham Palace was not oblivious. Coded reports of these incidents, the costs, the protests, the protocol disasters, would filter back to the offices of senior courtiers in London. The reaction, according to a former palace insider, was cycles of quiet panic, swiftly followed by resignation. Andrew was famously the Queen's favourite, a son beyond reproach within the inner circle. Direct reprimand or intervention was seen as impossible. So, a passive, dangerous strategy was adopted: containment. The unspoken directive to the travelling private secretaries and equerries became, just get him through it. Get him home without a front-page scandal. They weren't managing a royal tour. They were babysitting a diplomatic time bomb. The institution chose to protect itself from the immediate headline, while allowing the long-term poison of his behaviour to seep into its international reputation. This is the critical connection. The man who demanded 40 outriders in Manila is the exact same man who thought nothing of staying in a convicted sex offender's mansion in New York. The mindset that could look at a bill for 10 million pesos and see it as his due is the same mindset that believed he could talk his way out of a Newsnight interview. The Asia trips were not separate from the later scandals. They were the foundational evidence. They revealed, in a controlled diplomatic setting, the same character traits that would later explode on the global stage: a profound entitlement, a belief that normal rules were for other people, and a willingness to leverage his status to create a reality that served only him. Staff in Asia saw the pattern first. They lived it. The final accounting of Prince Andrew's Asian tours cannot be measured in currency conversions alone. The real cost was in the shadow they cast, a long, dark shadow of compromised integrity and willful blindness. These trips normalised the outrageous within the royal system itself. They exposed the monarchy's fatal flaw: an inability to police its own, even when the evidence of damage was mounting in official reports. Long before the name Epstein became synonymous with his fall, a network of aides, foreign service personnel, and security details across Asia had already compiled a damning dossier on Prince Andrew's true character. Their testimony reveals a simple, disturbing truth. The scandal that finally consumed him wasn't an aberration. It was the culmination of a pattern practiced for years with the full knowledge of an institution that simply looked the other way. What other long-hidden patterns of behaviour are waiting to be exposed within the gilded walls of the monarchy? The story never ends, and the documents are still being uncovered. For the real, unvarnished history they don't want you to know, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Family Daily. Hit the bell so you never miss an investigation. Now, we want to hear from you. Which royal figure, past or present, do you believe has the most revealing and untold story from their official tours? Let us know in the comments below.